Welcome to the podcast of the Political Page blog with commentary from an attorney and entrepreneur on the political and social issues of the day, from a rationalist, libertarian, and often irreverent perspective. This is Political Page, and here's what's on my mind today. Hello and welcome to the podcast of the Political Page blog, dated 28th June 2019, and this one is entitled, Transgender Women Need Free Abortions and Other Insanities. I watched the Democratic primary debates. I do this for you so that you do not have to. And my first thought was that the Democratic debates might have benefited from having a moderator, any moderator, please God, please, who actually could ask a question that demanded thought. Instead, what NBC did was they selected such mental giants and lauded neutral journalists as the rabid Rachel Maddow and Chuck Todd of CNN. So we got questions that were all prefaced by long speeches. As a matter of fact, did you know that Todd had the fourth longest speaking time of any of the actual candidates on the stage? And those questions were filled with dog whistles about children in cages, followed by a predictable free-for-all of ninnying as the crowded bevy of mostly unrecognizable candidates snapped and bit at each other's flanks, clawing their way over the bleeding corpses of their fellows to ever more extreme pinnacles of woke vapidity. But to be fair, it wasn't just the moderators. NBC itself contributed to the surreal aspect of this entire thing, because apparently, even though they were preparing for a national debate, they couldn't figure out how to turn off the microphones on the previous questioners who had gone into the back to have their coffee and talk about what they had just done. So that was overlaid over top of what everybody else was saying for a very uncomfortable period of time before they abruptly stopped the entire debate and cut to a commercial. And as an aside, just to have some fun, make sure that you search the trolling tweet that Trump did the next morning, where he took the video and the audio of that. He added some funny video bits with all the electricity failing, layered some Ozzy Osbourne on it, and it was funny. Progressives did not find it funny at all, but it was. You're not going to find it on YouTube because Google's hiding it, but you'll find it other places. Anyway, the real humor came from the candidate responses themselves, and those, even Trump could not make them up. I would say that probably my favorite is the passionately sincere insistence of the ever-hopeful and unfortunately surnamed Julian Castro, by the way, his poll support is 1%, that the federal government needs to fund all abortions. And I'm going to give you his quote. Yeah, it's a slightly redacted quote, but he said it. Quote, just because a trans female is poor doesn't mean they shouldn't exercise that right to choose. Now, this has been spun by the press as defending the trans community, instead of being a breathtakingly basic biological cluelessness that no amount of hormone therapy or breast implantation or cutting off one's tallywhacker can grow a man a uterus with which he can enjoy his free federal abortion. I would have to say a close second is probably Representative Tim Ryan, poll support 0%, who insisted that the downing of the American drone recently by Iran was because, quote, the president is distracted. Now, Mr. Ryan, despite being on a defense subcommittee, and my God, let's hope he doesn't get on a big committee, is apparently unaware that the President of the United States does not sit in his residence bedroom personally controlling the drones that are flying over the wee hours of an Iranian morning. And in fact, the fact that an American drone was shot down by Iran under President Obama's watch in 2011 wasn't mentioned by Representative Ryan, but he's probably hiding the fact that Mr. Obama didn't have a pilot's license at the time and shouldn't be flying his drones. From there, we were interspersed with excruciatingly painful efforts by almost all the candidates, and together I think they get third place, because they smarmily pandered to what they consider to be what Latinos want to hear, with utterly painful, patronizing exercises from middle school Spanish 1 classes in this painful race to one-up one another with cringingly bad Spanglish. However uncomfortable that was to watch, and it was uncomfortable, it was a squirm fest, at least it has a redeeming fact, and the redeeming fact is that Cory Booker was beaten to the Spanglish punch by the very Irish Robert Francis O'Rourke, nicknamed Beto, poll support 3%, in getting his Spanglish out. Cory had wanted to get his in there first, and his expression looking at Robert Francis beating him to the punch is a classic. In fact, it's becoming the basis of a whole lot of memes, and it should. And if you think that's all there was, oh, no, it went on from there. The candidates tried to top one another with ever more woke claims of progressive foolishness. We had Kamala Harris insisting that the U.S. is obligated to permit anybody to stay here whose mother pays a coyote. We have Bernie insisting, and I give him credit for admitting it, that the middle class will be, quote, delighted to pay more taxes. We have John Hickenlooper, who thinks that detaining illegals at the border qualifies as kidnapping under Colorado law. God, I hope he's not a lawyer. And then all of the candidates, every single one of them, swearing that they're going to do something that will assuredly attract many more illegals across the border by offering anybody who can manage to sneak across the border free health care for life. Wow. And then we get to the really bizarre stuff. How about that Wiccan presidential candidate saying that her primary priority as president will be to call the leader of New Zealand and challenge her on her claim that they have the best child care? And how about de Blasio, the New York mayor, standing up in front of a crowd in Miami, which is stuffed to the gills with bitterly dispossessed Cuban exiles, and quoting at them in his own Spanglish quotes from the mass murderer Che Guevara? You could not make this up if you tried. I would suggest that as 2020 unwinds and this election continues, we all take out stock in popcorn manufacturing companies. They can't make enough of the stuff to get us through the entertainment we're about to have. Thank you for tuning in to the Political Page podcast today. Original blog articles, complete with a lot more information and great links to original source material, can be found anytime on politicalpage.net. That's political, P-A-I-G-E, .net.